part
Oh,
of the
the
show.
power
I don't
you
want it to be
have.
too early.
Yeah, my phone says you got 1 minute too. So.
We're going to have to synchronize our phones.
Got
Synchronize your phones.
5 seconds.
Where's the watch? Synchronize your
I have an idea what I'd like to do with mine some days, but
No,
synchronizing it isn't on the
Isn't on the
list.
list. Yeah.
Blaze.
Welcome, everyone. This is the meeting of the Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners. It's their organizational meeting. We're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner Lathrop,
Here.
Commissioner Mayer,
Here.
Commissioner Gore Follett, here. Commissioner Wheelock,
Here.
Commissioner Klaus,
Here.
Commissioner Crawford,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Now we're going to have the first public comment. Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners which is required to be open to the public under the provision of the Michigan Open Meetings Act. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. Any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions, if any. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. The chairperson may, at his or her discretion, extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak. Public comment will be solicited during the 2 public comment periods noted in Rule 5.4, Order of Business. However, public comment will generally be received at any time during the meeting regarding a specific topic currently under discussion by the board. Members of the public wishing to comment should raise their hand or pass a note to the clerk in order to be recognized, and shall not address the board until called upon by the chairperson. Does anyone want to come up and speak under public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to election of chairperson. Tonight is our organizational meeting, and we will be electing a new chairperson. I'm chairing until then. We're going to use Robert's Rules of Order for the way we nominate. I will ask for nominations from the board. After all nominations are submitted, then we will take a vote on the nominees. Okay? So, do I have any nominations for the county board chairperson? Mr. Wheelock.
Madam Chairman, I would move to appoint Carol Crawford board chairman.
Support.
Okay. Do I have any more nominations?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Dr. Bob Johnson for chair.
Okay. Did we have a second on that?
Support.
Okay. Do I have any more nominations? Seeing no more nominations, we will close the nominations at this time. I'm going to take a roll call vote on our first nominee. Commissioner Wheelock
Yes.
nominated Commissioner Crawford, which was seconded by Commissioner Follett. So since Commissioner Wheelock wants to go first, we will let him go first. And would you like yes or no?
Yes, please.
Commissioner Klaus,
Yes.
Commissioner Crawford,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
No.
Commissioner Lathrop,
No.
Commissioner Mayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Gore Follett.
Yes.
We have 5 yes and 2 no. That is a majority. And at this time, Commissioner Crawford has been elected the Grand Traverse County Board Chair.
Thank you. Thank you for your support, and I will do my absolute very best.
Sarah
Serve the
will be
board.
bringing over your nameplate. And now we're going to have the vice chair nomination, and Commissioner Crawford is now taking over the meeting as the chair.
Okay. All right. We will now elect a new vice chairperson. So do I have any nominations for County Board Vice Chairperson? Commissioner Lathrop.
I'd like to nominate Ron Klaus.
Okay.
Support.
Okay. Do I have any other nominations for County Board Vice Chairperson? No?
Hear the train?
Okay, so hearing no further nominations, I will close the nominations at this time. The clerk will be taking a roll call vote to elect Commissioner Klaus to serve as the County Board Vice Chairperson. Roll call, Bonnie, please.
Mayor,
Yes.
Gorfulet,
Yes.
Wheelock,
Yes.
Klaus,
Yes.
Crawford,
Yes?
Johnson,
Yes.
Lathrop.
I'm going to vote yes because I want to punish Ron. Yes.
Oh, it won't be so bad, Ron.
Awful.
Okay, so Commissioner Klaus has received the majority of yes votes needed and is elected the new chairperson.
Vice Chair.
Congratulations, Commissioner
Vice
Klaus.
Chair.
Okay. So, this is my first time chairing a meeting, so as I said, I'll do my very best, with everyone's help, I hope. We will move on to approval of the agenda. Does anyone on the board have anything to add to the agenda for this evening? Yes, Cheryl.
I would like to add the ability to amend the agenda by a vote of a majority rather than a supermajority. I would like to add that as
Okay,
an item to be discussed tonight.
okay. Mr. Forsyth, would that be a part of adoption of the standing rules and a discussion of that particular rule?
Yeah, it would involve an amendment of that particular rule, yes.
Okay.
So under the
So that's
agenda.
already
When we
in there
adopt
on the agenda?
Yeah.
Okay,
Great.
yes, so noted
I'll
that
bring
that
it
will...
up then.
Thank you, that
You
will be
bet.
discussed. Yes, Dan?
I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but maybe discussion about when we're going to do our strategic planning meeting,
We can add that, certainly.
because that
Can we
probably
put
should
that
be
in new
done as soon as
business?
possible.
New business A, strategic planning. Okay, does anybody else have anything to add? Okay, so I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved. Support.
Okay. Moved and supported? Yes? Am I good?
It's really helpful if you say moved by and seconded
Moved
by.
by Commissioner
In case I
Johnson.
miss it. Thank you.
Seconded by Commissioner Wheelock.
Thank you.
Do we have any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. So we move on to the adoption of the standing rules. Everybody has been provided a copy of the board rules. So I guess we'll start with, does anybody have any changes they would like to the board rules? I assume everybody, yes, Cheryl.
Well, I have several, but I'll go numerically perhaps. Now,
That's fine.
it-
Go in order, and we'll discuss it.
I'm looking at 2.7, which is the time of meetings.
Okay?
It isn't listed in here, but apparently the time for our meetings is normally 6 PM, and I'm suggesting that we change that to 5:30 PM.
Okay.
Just a silly little half hour.
Okay. Mr. Forsyth, do we have to vote on each of these individually, or can we take the suggestions and vote on the board rules as a whole?
You know, it's probably for ease of discussion and clarity for the clerk, maybe we should look at these individually and vote on them
Okay,
individually.
we can do that. Okay. So, would you like to make a motion, Cheryl?
Yes, I would move that we change our meeting time for our 2 monthly scheduled meetings from 6 PM to 5:30 PM.
No, what,
Okay.
no, it's.
Do you have any support for that?
2.7.
I'll support for discussion. So, moved by Commissioner Gorfulet and seconded by Crawford. Any discussion?
I think actually that would be added to Section 2.2 regular monthly meetings that are held on the 1st and the 3rd. There isn't a time setting for that.
Gotcha.
2.7 has to do with not starting discussion of any issue after 10:30 in the evening.
Right,
But I think
Okay.
that would actually apply to 2.2, which are regularly scheduled meetings.
thank you. You are absolutely correct.
Okay.
As far as discussion, from my point of view, whether I'm here at 5:30 or 6 o'clock, either way is a stretch for me. But, the fact is county employees get done with their day at 5 o'clock. If they're going to stay and provide information to us, it's probably easier to do it earlier than it is later. We used to meet at 7, as most of you might, or some of you may remember, but basically county employees were stuck with, okay, it's too far to go home, but in the hour and a half before I have to be here to do the presentation. So they were kind of stuck what they were going to do and in limbo. I don't have a problem one way or the other, as far as from a county board perspective. Obviously, it's not
Can I
going to fit my
just-
schedule as well.
Did you want to ask it, or I can ask it?
Go ahead.
I'm just looking at the board rules, in 2.7, time of regular meetings and study sessions, that says, regular meetings of the Board of Commissioners shall begin at a fixed time as established annually by the board at their organizational meeting. And we do have, under an agenda item tonight, fixing of the time of the meetings. Now, certainly you can amend your board rules and you can add a time provision in 2.2. I'm not saying you can do that. I just wanted to draw that to your attention, that one of your acts tonight is to fix the time of the meetings.
So we could do it at that time.
So you could do like you're doing now and put it in the board rules, or you could just adopt a resolution when we get to that part of the agenda saying the time is now going to be 5:30.
Which would be the time when we're also looking at the dates.
Yes, the dates of other meetings as well.
Yeah, my comment would be, if we don't need to change the rules to make them more specific, then not change them.
Okay.
It doesn't
And
mean-
I'm okay with that.
It doesn't mean we can't change the meeting time, but every time we change...
I'll withdraw.
Every time we change the rules, it might affect something we haven't considered.
Butterfly wings,
Yeah.
I get it, I withdraw.
And then the only thing I can think of that, isn't part of the discussion so far is that, would the public still be would it still be as easy for them to attend meetings because of their work schedules? Because it has been 6 for a long time.
Okay.
I'm just glad it's not 7, because the city ones are at 7, and I think that's later than need be, but,
It hasn't been 6 that long either.
Okay, so Cheryl, you'd like to,
I'll just withdraw it as a
Withdraw,
change.
and I'll
to
withdraw
the,
my second.
As a change.
okay. Okay. Do you want to continue on with your list?
Well, somebody else can feel free to jump in.
Anyone else, if they have some, I have a question of Mr. Forsythe, relying on you a lot tonight. The equalization meeting, does that have, I realize that has to be the second Monday, or it says, can we change that to be the first regular Wednesday meeting in April and have it be in the evening?
No, it's statutory.
That's a statutory requirement. I can
Okay.
look into this again and get
Okay.
back to the board, but I've looked in this in the past. In my opinion, in the past is, we have to have it at that date.
And does it have to be during the day?
I
Well-
don't think there's a set time.
No, I don't think there's a set time.
It just has to be that day.
This has to be that
There's
day.
a specific date in their laws or
Okay, so
whatever.
the date, we could maybe leave here in the rules, we can discuss the time at a different time. Dan?
Madam Chair, I didn't hear what you said. What are we considering?
It says here in 2.4, the equalization meeting shall be held on the Tuesday following the second Monday in April.
Okay, now I get it. Thank you.
Okay, we're just questioning whether that could actually be moved to our regular Wednesday meeting, and does it have to be, I think historically it's been at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And does it have to be, was my question.
No, I think time-wise, you're fine changing the time. It's just that date is set in stone by statute.
Okay, okay, fair enough. Okay. Anyone else have any changes to the board rules?
Well, I'd like to clearly understand the agenda setting.
Okay,
So like the agenda for this meeting was set by the administration because we didn't have an organizational meeting yet. And then the rest of this meeting is run by you. And then, how will we begin to set the first agenda for the, what is it, the 18th?
yes.
Yeah.
Historically, that, for the past year, that has been an agenda committee that meets on the Thursday prior, correct? And it involves members of the administration and some department heads, the chair, and a rotating person from the commission. So everyone will get a chance to sit in on the agenda meeting as we go along.
Are there any situations where we have to, like, announce it at the previous meeting so that there's plenty of notice?
No, I don't think
No?
so.
Okay.
The only thing in regard to the agenda setting for the regular meeting under 5.0 is currently the rules require that a two-thirds vote or 5 members vote to add any items to the agenda. We had a number of occasions where we've tried to add either items to discussion, and for one reason or the other, we didn't have 5 votes. Oftentimes, it was because we had a commissioner missing. You know, someone was absent, and we did not have 5 affirmative votes to add an item to the agenda, and there are times that we would like to take consideration of an agenda. I would like to see that rule to just simply be, the agenda can be amended or items can be added to the agenda at the vote of a majority of the commissioners seated and elected.
Yeah,
Is that possible?
that's possible.
Okay.
Yes.
Would you like to make a motion to that effect?
Yeah, I would move that items received after the agenda has been posted shall not be considered by the board unless approved by a majority of board members elected and serving. We'll just strike that two-thirds vote thing.
How about elected and present, because you just made the point that
You start doing that, you start playing around with your quorum numbers.
So in other words, it would take 4, no matter how many are at the meeting, it would still take 4 to do it. Okay.
I'll
Dan?
second it.
You'll second that? Okay,
Yeah.
motioned by Commissioner Wheelock, seconded by Lathrop. Commissioner Lathrop? Any further discussion? Bob?
My major concern with this is starting to see a lot of last-minute additions to the agenda with this. I think that's where the 3/4 comes in, is to try to limit that. I mean, we have a very generous policy now with getting things on the agenda through the proper process. I guess I'd rather keep it at the current number, just because I'd rather have time to look at things in that than last-minute additions. So.
No one hates items on their desk more than I do.
I know.
But the fact is, there are times that we really would like to take items under discussion at a meeting, whether we act on it or not. We can't even add it to the agenda for discussion without having this rule change. You know, just because we add it to the agenda and we have discussion of the item, doesn't mean we have to make a ruling on that item that evening. But there are times that we've had issues in the last year that we probably should have had discussion on when they were brought to us, and we couldn't because of the rule.
Anybody else?
Do you want to make it a discussion only and no vote, or you're
No,
still
not
open to the vote,
necessarily.
right? Yeah, okay. Still open to the
I
vote.
trust the commissioners to make the decision.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Bonnie, should we have a roll call vote on this one?
Yes.
Okay.
The motion is to change the vote to a simple majority instead of two-thirds to add items to the agenda. Commissioner Johnson?
No.
Lathrop?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Gore Follett?
yes.
Wheelock?
Yes.
Klaus?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes. So that passes. Okay. Anybody else moving through the board rules? Anything else? We'll get to the end here. I know I had something else. Oh. I have one that I'd like to bring up for discussion. 11.6, method of voting. I think we need to be very clear, and maybe Mr. Forsythe might need to reword this for us. There have been times in the past year where commissioners have been allowed to participate and vote and participate in closed session through electronic devices over the phone. There have been other instances where that hasn't been allowed. And so I think that we need to discuss this and clarify exactly what we would like as far as, do we as a board want to allow that or not? So I will put that out there. Dan?
I'd like to ask council, is this a thing we can make a decision on, or are there laws governing this already?
Well, I've had discussions with individual commissioners about this, former commissioners, newly elected commissioners. And yes, when the prior commissioner was allowed to participate by both phone and video, I did look at the Open Meetings Act. I did look at a published 1985 Court of Appeals decision and a 1995 AG's opinion that seemed to allow those methods to be present in voting versus being there, in the flesh, being there present. I don't want to give you an answer off the top of my head. This is something I have to think about. Certainly want to give you the opportunity to explore this, amend your board rules if possible, to either not allow it or to clarify it or quantify it. So this is something I feel like I'd have to look at the Open Meetings Act again and get an opinion to you.
All right, yes, Dan?
My point is, can we make a decision at a board that breaks Open Meetings Act? Or can we make a decision at a board that breaks the law? I don't think we can.
Right.
That's what
I was just
Yeah.
bringing it
Yeah,
up
and-
so that we can discuss and decide, are we
Yeah.
allowed to say they can? Are we allowed to say they can? I think it's ambiguous what present
Right. What
means,
is the
and it has
word?
been over the past year.
What does the word present mean?
Exactly.
The Open Meetings Act says you have to be present at the meeting. The Court of Appeals said, well, being present means you can participate by phone. The AG has said, well, you can do video conference. That's present. So if we're going to adopt a board rule that says to be present means you have to be physically at the meeting, we want to make sure that that does not conflict with the Open Meetings Act.
Okay. Sure.
I looked at the law. Chris was kind enough to get me a copy of those decisions, and it is a complicated issue, and I think that there may be some wiggle room for us, but I respect the fact that we really would be smart to take a look at what does present mean. I think that we're all committed to being here. I mean, that's why we ran. We want to be here. And if you're somewhere else, you're not here. And you can't see, I think, Chris, I'm thinking that one of the areas that maybe is going to be helpful is there's a lot of video cases out now about witnesses being allowed to testify long distance, like if you can't bring a witness to a trial, can they testify from, New Jersey or whatever, and can the jury really judge the credibility of the witness when they're looking at a video screen rather than looking at them sitting in the chair and fidgeting, et cetera. So I think there is some good case law out there that might be able to help us. But I just think, too, as a board, we can adopt our own philosophy, not outside of the law, that says we want to encourage people to be here. When there's an issue that's important and the people are expecting us to speak to it and vote on it, we need to be here. I mean, absent a really good reason.
Okay. Bob?
Well, as you say, it's not always that simple.
Sure.
I mean, I have to go downstate a lot for meetings and whatnot. I serve on several other boards, one here with the county and another state board, and we do allow people to phone in. What we have in the rules are, you have to have a quorum present. Once you have that, then you can have someone in. But we do have challenges here. If we do go that route, I think we do need to update some of our stuff, if you will, technical term.
Yes.
Because we do have limitations on, if you're just calling in, it's very difficult, So I think it is something that's probably worth looking at, so.
All right.
Sonny?
I think we definitely have to look at it. The one problem that I really think we have to consider that we allowed recently, which bothered me an awful lot, is allowing a person not present to participate in a closed session. Because there is no way that I or anyone else or legal counsel can determine who is in that room with that person who's participating in closed session.
That's true.
And closed session membership is very restrictive about who can be in the room and who can participate in any discussion and hear the discussion that's being happened. And when we allow, by telephone, by video, whatever, to participate in a closed session, I believe that's a significant concern that I'd have no way of knowing who else is in that room and having discussion. Or at least having access to that discussion.
Liability.
So we will have, is it by kind of nod of heads, can we have Mr. Forsythe look at that for us and come back in 2 weeks? We can amend these at any time, is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
So we can leave it be as it is right now. And he'll look into that for us and report back. So we'll put that on the agenda for 2 weeks from now. Everybody?
Yep.
Make sure I look at you over there too. Okay. Moving on.
So do we want to adopt the standing rules?
No, I have one more.
I have one more, too.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
Mine, and I'm looking for the number, is the Audit Committee.
13.1. I'm on there right
Thank you.
now.
What is that, 13.1?
The Non-Statutory Audit Committee. My concern is several-fold with the Non-Statutory Audit Committee. Probably my primary concern is the fact that not everybody knows what's going on with the numbers.
Okay.
And I think right now, there's a need for us all to know what's going on with the numbers. I'm looking for clarification by its name, non-statutory audit, by its name,
you.
non-statutory audit committee, it would appear that it's not mandated. And if it's not mandated, then I wonder why we're doing it. Because my other concern is that there's an expectation that people will meet at 11 o'clock on a workday, a couple times a month, to do this job that we're, oh, that's right, not getting paid for. It's a huge commitment. So that's the second piece. That's a lesser piece. The bigger piece is I think everybody needs to know what's going on financially. And I don't want to do this job because I can't do this job. I have a job where I make money job that I have to do at 11 o'clock during the day. And I think probably most of the other people at this table do too. But I want to know what's going on. And I want to know a way that we can do that so that we all know where the money's going, how it's being spent. So maybe I'm missing something here.
Can we have maybe Jody, our finance director, weigh in on this? Have any ideas or insights?
Yes, so I'm actually very excited and have been working on a format for monthly reporting going forward on the revenues and expenditures of those funds that were adopted so that throughout the year the adopted budget can be compared with actual activity. The purpose of the Audits Committee is so that there is oversight, direct oversight by the board that does not deter or put any unnecessary obstacles to the day-to-day operations of the board. So if the board were to consider amending the Audit Committee's schedule or its operation in providing that oversight and approval of those claims, of those invoices, of those things that we are spending money on, the committee actually goes through invoice by invoice, that then we would have to look at the thresholds of approvals that come to the board and in what format the board would like to see them. By all means, we would endeavor to provide any level of detail that the board would want for you to be able to do your job and feel comfortable with the authority that was given. There would just be a number of other decisions that then the board would also have to deliberate on.
Like what?
So as I had mentioned, so for the thresholds, so for instance, do all invoices of any amount have to come before the board before they can be paid?
I can't
Are there
imagine that
certain-
all invoices are being looked at by the board now. What a
Yes, they
Yes,
are.
What
yes,
a
we do.
ridiculous waste of time.
Exactly.
A
It-
ridiculous.
You have to know
Can I
what you're
say that
looking for.
again?
I know. Ron and I have served on this
sat on
for 2 years, and it takes, you kind of got to learn as you go through what you're looking for. Look for anomalies and odd things, things that you might think that's overspent, that seems like a lot, that you kind of, as you go, figure out what you're looking for. It takes about, I don't know, an hour, hour and a half maybe, to go through it. And I have some other things, I'll let Dan talk. Go
May I
ahead.
ask Commissioner Gorfal a question?
You can call me
Go.
Cheryl, too, if you
Cheryl,
would.
okay. I'm trying to understand. I understand about not want to come in on Tuesday. When did you guys meet?
11 o'clock?
It has been 11,
Yeah.
Ron and I
Can
spoke
it be
about it the
done
other
in
day,
the
and we were considering moving it up
Can it be done in the
earlier.
evening? Why can't it be done in the evening?
There's no one to ask if we have
Right,
questions.
staff's not
Staff
here to ask.
participation
Oh, okay.
would be the issue. Ron and I had maybe thought about moving it up early in the day to get it out of the way, so that we can continue on with our jobs.
Here's a question.
Sunny?
Well, I think, personally, I think we can accomplish pretty much the same thing by looking at our purchasing policy, looking at the thresholds that this board wants to be involved in. I too have spent my time in that committee over the years that I've sat here, and literally going through Ace Hardware invoices to see, yep, they went back and bought a pair of flashlight batteries, and that should not be my responsibility. We can take care of a lot of that with our purchasing policy and our reporting policies to this board. Financial reporting is important to us, and we need to have that. But the idea that 3 commissioners or 2 of 3 on the committee should sit down every 2 weeks and go through somewhere in the neighborhood of 175, 200 invoices probably on the average.
It's a stack, it's a report that we
It's a
go
stack,
through. Yeah.
and I remember, of course, we were doing it with beads and rods when I started, but, but the fact is, I can remember sitting there and I've got this computer printout and I'm going through the Ace Hardware invoices and I'm checking off invoice numbers and making sure the amounts are right, and it was just an absurd waste of my time. We have good employees, let them do their jobs.
Absolutely.
The employee that needs to go to get a fitting at Ace Hardware because we've got a sink broken at the jail, he has to get it, his supervisor has to approve it. We have purchasing policies in place. It is absolutely absurd that county commissioners have to review that invoice.
Thank you.
Dan?
I agree with this, and I think it's a good idea. Maybe we could ask our have Jody give us some ideas about thresholds, and then we can discuss that. But I think it's a good idea. I've never been on that board, but I've been here like 4 years now, and what a tedious thing to have to do.
It's ridiculous.
You guys are
And I think it's
saints. You're
unnecessary.
saints. You are, you're saints.
No,
You
I
have
think
done it.
we can
We found
take care
very
of this.
little every
We
time.
can simply take care of this by looking at our purchasing policy, which isn't part of our board rules, and the thresholds that we use, and the reporting policy that we ask our finance people to give to commissioners.
So-
It is absolutely absurd, at least in my mind, to have 2 commissioners go through invoice by invoice and check them off on a computer sheet.
It's like an ancient relic that we've had all these years, and we can be done with it.
So can we eliminate it, or what are we going to do? Because that was my suggestion.
Chris, can we eliminate that statutory?
It is non-statutory. You could probably do it. What you might want to do, though, is hold off, give Jody the chance to review it, and I review to make sure it's legal, and we come back to the board.
By the next meeting?
And in the meantime, do Ron and I continue to go and approve those things, or can we let it go until we make a decision?
Why don't you let it go until you make a decision?
So is that acceptable
No.
to everybody?
Well, we
Direct
ended-
Jody to do that
We ended
for
up
us?
with both sides. We ended up with the foolish time of dealing with, looking at the set of flashlight batteries that they bought, and then we also ended up with micromanaging because somebody bought an item that they think they paid 20% too much money for
Yeah.
because it wasn't on sale.
Yeah.
You know, and it's, well, if they'd have went here and got it, it would have been cheaper, you know, and
I guess I would like to say, for part of the conversation when we're looking at this threshold policy, et cetera, would be to maybe spitball some ideas about what would be red flags for us.
Okay.
You know, items that we would want to know if they were purchased, you know, something out of the ordinary that someone was purchasing, even if it was below the threshold. I mean, if, let's say the threshold is $1,000. I mean, if somebody made a $500 purchase of something that seemed really extraordinary, like, you know, I don't want to say, because I'd say something crazy.
Tom, did you have something?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea to have Jody take a look at that and set a threshold amount, because actually I'm much more concerned about our purchasing policy, our procurement, bidding on contracts, how long contracts last, and so that, you know, when something comes up and we already well, one thing we could discuss in the future is we're working with some company and then we're going to give them another contract to do more service. This example's been highlighted in the paper, that we would consider the same company that we've already started doing business with. Well, I'm not sure exactly why we wouldn't want to put that out to bid, or what the reasons for not putting out to bid would be if we already have that company. But I think it deserves a discussion, because there's more than one company that provides that same service, and they're local companies, so.
So we can have Jody report back to us on some suggestions for thresholds so that we can all be comfortable with
I think our purchasing policy and bidding policy certainly needs to be
Please
addressed.
look.
Yeah.
Could we be provided copies of those prior to our next meeting? Thank you.
Yeah, I'd hope that we could talk about that at the next meeting or the meeting after that, so that it's
We'll see how the agenda shapes up for that.
towards the beginning. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we'll leave that for now. That might be an amendment later.
Sherry has a
Sure, come on up, Terry.
We currently have a claims run scheduled on the 10th of January. There are certain invoices, as per our current policy, that are held and not printed. The checks are not printed until they're approved by the audit committee. So therefore, we have DPW check runs that are scheduled for next Tuesday. We have Health Department check runs that are scheduled for next Tuesday, as we have our current claims that are scheduled for next Tuesday. So if you will give us permission to go ahead and issue those checks without the audit committee approval, that's all I'm asking for, unless you want me to hold all those checks and make them all late until the next committee. I don't really want to do that. So-
You know, we're likely, I doubt that we found 5 items that anyone wanted to have additional discussion on in the 18 years I've sat in this
Yeah.
chair.
I'm
I
good with it. I
can't
just
imagine
don't
why
want
we
to
would-
do
Why we would
anything.
hold this check run while we review this.
And based on what you say that they're for, I'm perfectly comfortable letting them go.
Okay.
Is Jody comfortable with that?
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you, Cherry.
Okay. Anything else on the board rules?
Not to be a pain, but yes. Sorry.
Cheryl?
5.4, order of business.
Oh, going back.
I'm
Okay.
going through my notes, I found something that I wanted to talk to you all about adding. I would like to add something to our order of business. I would like to see that at one of our monthly meetings, that we would give 5 minutes to somebody within the county, some entity within the county, the road commission or the clerk's office or whomever, 5 minutes. They're going to be on the agenda, they get 5 minutes. They can use their 5 minutes to do a video presentation, or they could give us materials and then just use their 5 minutes to talk. But to give us an opportunity to hear from all these different moving parts that we have in the county, that sometimes we don't hear anything about anybody, and sometimes we hear a whole lot from just the same. But it would be their 5 minutes. There's a hand out there in the audience.
Yes, Ms. Stocking, you may, if you want to step up to the podium and make a comment?
Sure
Please,
you do.
please do.
You love the attention.
I do want to say, though, that's a great idea, and that is exactly what Antrim and Leelanau County currently do. They assign each department, court, agency, whatever, a month, and we are to report, and they give us 5 or 10 minutes.
Well, I'm pretty clear on 5.
Yeah, but no more than that. It's not a real big to-do. It's just so that we have an opportunity to come before them at least once every year, even if we don't have an issue.
From a staff perspective, I think one of the things that might make that easier is in our strategic planning process to help identify what information is valuable to the board, and that kind of provides some structure for the reporting. Otherwise, you may be getting information that isn't valuable to you. So if that would be something that we could discuss during that strategic planning process, that might be beneficial.
I guess what I would just add is that I would like them to decide what's important. I don't begin to know what's important. That's why I want to hear from them. I want to know what their issues are, what their concerns are. Are they concerned about staffing? Are they concerned about lack of support? Are they concerned about the fact they don't have an HR department? I mean, I don't want to say what they should be concerned about. I want them to tell us what their issues are. Do they have something they'd like to see happen in the next year that we could help move that forward? Do they have something that's happened that they haven't had resolved that we can help resolve? I don't want to define it. I would like, I mean, if they come in and it turns into some brouhaha, then yeah, maybe we'll have to refine it. But I would just be interested in seeing what they thought was important.
Dan?
This, I'm not against it. I just want to discuss it. This reminds me of interfering with what our administrator is supposed to be doing. I think that if employees have an issue, the way it should be done is go to the administrator and discuss it with him. Maybe we can modify, or her, whoever it ends up being, but I think one of the faults of this board has been historically that we deal with employees and department heads individually, and so we have employees, we have department heads coming to individual commissioners, and so placating to us for whatever's on their heart or mind. In the old days, we had commissioners that were assigned to each department. Do you remember that, Sonny? I don't know that the model is good. That's what worries me. I want to hear what employees think and how they feel and stuff. I know that maybe there's a way to, I'd like to involve the administrator in that. And I think that, I don't think this board should be taking over the administrator's duties and job. So I think he should, our boards, I think, we have one employee. That's the administrator. All the other employees are his employees. So I don't know if I'm for changing. I'd like to go the other way, where we're less involved with, and we take more broad brush strokes as more traditional boards do. So I'm taking the opposite stance.
Well, under a previous format, we had a various number of committees, as most of you know. Pretty much was eliminated prior to the last couple of years. We've changed the structure significantly. Each of those committees had certain departments that reported to that committee, you know, whether it be the L&A committee, the Ways and Means committee, and, you know, the courts reported, the sheriffs reported, and we got some feedback. I think there's value to that. I've been chastised pretty regularly lately about my involvement with county employees, but I, as a county commissioner, do not provide services to any citizen in this community as far as direct service to them. The only people that can tell me whether those services are working for the people and how many people are using them are our county employees. And no one in this room can tell me how that's working except the people that are out on the ground meeting the citizens and providing the services. So, you know, I have always made myself available to county employees, and I've never denied that. You know, I take the information that I get and I use it for whatever purpose that I have. I don't believe I've overstepped my bounds anywhere in the time I've sat here, but the fact is, the only people that can tell me what the citizens are asking for and what the citizens are using in services that we provide are those county employees that are out there in our community providing those services.
Isn't that the job of the administrator? Can't we, as a board, tell the administrator we want more feedback from employees, we want more of this type of stuff, he reports to us? I don't think we should be individually negotiating with employees.
Cheryl.
Let me clarify. That wasn't what I was suggesting. I wasn't suggesting that. I was suggesting that in February, we're going to have, I don't know, the health department come and talk about, what do they do at the health department? You know, what's their goals for 2017? What's new on their plate? Because I think there's some new stuff. I mean, I just saw a bunch of money coming their way, you know, so they're doing some new stuff. I'd like to know more about what it is and how it's working and what the feedback is they're getting. I'm not saying I want to open this up to be an employee come in and no, I fully agree with what you're saying. Okay,
I would accept what you said, if
Okay.
that's what we do.
Okay. And so, just so that we're clear, I'm suggesting that the order of business be amended to kind of circle us back here, to add that one meeting a month, we would assign 5 minutes, 5 whole minutes of our agenda to some entity within the county. And if we have to, you know, figure out in advance like what it is, I think that makes sense. They want to plan, they want to figure out, you know, what they're going to present, how they're going to present it, who's going to present it, whatever. But that's what I'm proposing.
Revolving department report?
Revolving department report, thank you.
That's great.
She can go first.
Wendy would like to say something?
Yeah, Wendy Chute, Health Officer. 5 minutes, I know for my department, I can't even say all the names of the programs in 5 minutes. So if you can give us some idea and some focus of what you'd like to hear, we do try to include as much as we can in the administrative reports monthly to try and keep you updates, but I know that there might be new things or changes or even things from our strategic plan that you want to know about. Since you brought up strategic plan, I would just want to put a push in that it's really important. I think, at least I'll speak for my department, that we also get to participate in the board's strategic planning process at some point. We do strategic planning at the health department, and we involve employees at all levels during the process. So I think it's really important that you get our input into the overall county strategic plan at some point as well as the employees, which you could do through surveys.
Okay.
So.
Thank you, Wendy. Bob?
Yeah, and actually what I would do is challenge the board to actually try to get some of these departments we never hear from
Yes.
to come in. I mean, Wendy's, if you read the staff report,
She's very
she goes
thorough.
very in-depth, and any of her,
Yep.
when she brings stuff to the board, she goes very in-depth. The courts, we always hear from quite a bit too. But it'd be nice to challenge some of the other departments to get some information from them for 5 minutes to say,
Yes.
look, here's what we're doing, here's what we'd like to do in the future, that kind of stuff.
I think it's a good idea too, because I think the employees, at least from me, need to know that I think a lot of them, and I want to hear from them. So it's a good way to do that.
And not to beat a dead horse, but, you know, 5 minutes, if you got 5 minutes, you use 5 minutes. And it's up to you to figure out how to use it. But I think that's a reasonable period of time. If you had to stand up and give a 5-minute speech, my God, that would seem like forever. So just think of it that way.
Oh, Wendy has no trouble.
Tom, you had something?
Well, you know, depending on which department it is, you could tell them when they come, before they present, when they're preparing, you know, how many minutes they have. But there's no other section in the rules that give minutes to a section, so.
Right, that was going to be my next.
So you might not want to
I'd be okay
add
with that.
specifics.
We could add
Yeah.
some minutes to some of the other sections.
Well,
You could
no.
put it,
Now Cheryl wants to limit.
Well,
the
I'm
minutes.
just saying.
you could put it before second public comment, and then it would kind of fit in, so.
So, Mr. Forsythe, do we need to add something in here, or do we just direct administration to help to schedule on the second meeting of every month a various department to come in and speak in special orders of business or department action items.
Well, we could certainly add it, there is under 5.4 order of business, there's items A through P. We could add an item there and then maybe an asterisk next to that saying it's on a rotating basis to be done at the first meeting of the month or the last meeting of the month, so
So a
that probably
departmental
makes the best
report,
sense.
something like that. Do we need a motion on that, or is
So
that just
moved.
a change? Oh, okay.
Support.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Gorfulet, supported by Commissioner Wheelock. I believe that we add an item, wherever Mr. Forsythe thinks it should be, to allow for a department,
Revolving,
a revolving departmental report of 5 minutes. At the second, I think the second meeting of the month would be appropriate.
Can I just, as a point of clarification,
ma'am.
are you looking for county departments? Are you looking for agencies of the county? Are you looking for anyone who's funded by the county? Because there's a difference. I mean, the court will tell you they're not a department.
I would
And
say
so I just want to make sure that when we title this, we title it correctly.
What's the pleasure of the board on that?
what do you
I
think,
guess
Sam?
departments, I mean,
I think departments.
the other agencies like MSU Extension, they come and give us an annual report and that kind of stuff, so.
I think departments was my thinking.
Good place to start.
Departments,
Yeah.
yeah.
we
So
can't
that would
do
exclude then
I think
the
we can.
district court
I
or the
can- we-
circuit
we
court.
can
or-
use, we can use department as a generic type term. I don't think Carol and the court will come out unglued about us if we ask them to come and make a report under department reports, because they are not a department of this county. They are an independent entity. We know that, and I think that anytime we invite them, they will be happy to come, and I would certainly think any other organization or any other part of our operation, we have a lot of parts of our operation that aren't necessarily county departments per se, but they still provide services to our community that we are paying for and responsible for.
And might I suggest that perhaps we could ask administration to generate a list for us, and then we could go through the list, and we could fly spec who maybe
Right.
we'd like to hear from that we haven't heard from in a
That way, if
while.
there's someone missing, we can add it, and if there's someone that I doubt there's anyone we don't want to hear from, but we can go through it. Okay?
Yeah,
Yes, Tom?
you did repeat the amount of time, so I would still leave the time out. So,
Yes, she did. She said 5
Okay.
minutes.
Did you want that in the motion?
I
or
did want that in the motion.
Cheryl wanted that in the motion.
I
Because
just think it's important to hear
Because
from
that's not
people
the
that,
way everything else is organized. so.
Okay.
Well, we have public
Consistency
comment
is
in there
the
that's limited
hobgoblin.
also. It doesn't say it specifically in there.
That's
but
true, it
in
isn't
the
limited.
agenda itself lists that it's limited to 3
Right.
minutes, so the way it's set up right now, it doesn't specifically state.
3 minutes per person, but that doesn't mean we haven't sat here and taken an hour of public
That's at
comment
the
on issues over
discretion
the
of the
years.
chair as well, how long they allow people to talk. Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
Does it include the 5 minutes or not?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Why don't we do a roll call vote, Bonnie?
Alrighty. Lathrop,
Enthusiastically, yes.
Mayor,
No?
Gorfulet,
yes.
Wheelock,
Yes.
Klaus,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Crawford.
Yes. Okay.
I think it's a good place to start. If we decide we need more and more time, we can always change it. It's a good place to start.
Dan?
I don't know where to put this, but Bonnie, we discussed this before the meeting about receiving file, doing that a different way.
Yes, I had
Is
talked...
this a place to discuss it?
Oh, perhaps. I had talked to Chris Forsythe about receive and file, and Jen DeHaan. And a lot of counties do not include all those reports, minutes and everything in their agenda packets. So although we could make sure that those minutes and everything that's usually in the receive and file now could be accessed somewhere else, most of the receive and file should be correspondence directly to the board. Because you can find the minutes for Tattle somewhere, on their website, and maybe we could even put it somewhere else. But we were thinking that could reduce the amount of paper in our paper packets. So Chris said that, the board could bring that up, they could talk about it, change the way they want their packets. leave them the same.
Okay? Discussion on that point. Anybody?
I kind of like having it all at one location and one source to see it all. I could be the only one that likes that, but I kind of like having that. I know it's more work for everybody else, but for my benefit, but I kind of like having that one spot, one-stop shopping on it to look at that, so.
It's kind of convenient when I'm reading the packet to, if I, and there's a lot of that stuff that I just assume, okay, the airport commission minutes, I don't really necessarily need the airport commission minutes unless I know that there's something going on. Like when they were discussing this Costco thing, I read that all the time when that issue, once we're through that, I don't know that I've read the airport minutes in a couple months now, but it's important to have it there for us available.
I think it's important to have, actually, because that way, if we do have a question about something that was discussed at any of the committees that are out there, any of the other boards, then we would know what was going on. I don't naturally think to look at the Airport Commission or the Beta Board minutes on a regular basis. If they're there, I'll go through them if I see something, or like Sunny said, if there's something going on, then I know where to look.
Kind of acts like a reminder.
A reminder, yes, and I know where to look, and I know where to find it, and I know if it's in the newspaper, Beta decided on something, and I'll say, oh, I'll go back and look at their minutes. Well, I look at our next meeting, because I know that's where the minutes reside for me, at that spot. Plus, it also gives us the opportunity to remove it from the consent calendar and ask questions, if we have any. Sunny?
Chris, I have one little pet peeve, which you're going to have to tell me whether I can do anything about. Has to do with conflict of interest votes. The current board rules requires 2/3 vote. We've discussed this on a number of occasions over the years. We've set thresholds on it, and then a few years ago it was determined that, all conflict of interest votes had to require 2/3 of a vote. As many of you may remember, 6 months ago, I made an my staff made an emergency repair at Twin Lakes for some playground equipment. We went 3 months without being able to approve. The board approved the conflict of interest statement, but because of a commissioner missing here and a commissioner missing there, and myself not being eligible to vote, we went 3 months without getting paid for a $100 service call because of the conflict of interest, because I sit on this board. I've said before, I'm very good at what I do. I get very frustrated when the county chases sources all over the community trying to find somebody to do what I do, because it's too much hassle to deal with entering into a contract with me to repair it. And, I can go back and show you specifics where they've paid literally thousands of dollars too much money for a couple projects because 2/3 of this board would not vote to allow me to do the work. And
Yeah, that's something we'll have to look into. Interestingly enough, when the board rules were written, and credit really goes to Bob Cooney, Bob made sure that there's a corresponding state law cited to the board rule when there is a state law.
Right.
There is no state law for that particular requirement. So if there is no state law, then it's not mandated that you need a 3/4 vote. But I think I'd want to look into that before I tell the board you can just deal with it.
It's very simple, because if I can't vote and it takes 2/3 or 3/4 vote, all 6 other members have to vote yes in order for me to get paid for a job to be done. And I'm not sure that that's fair.
Well, I'll keep that in mind.
And it doesn't happen often with us, with my particular business, but it is a conflict, and I've always been very upfront talking about the conflict. The sheriff and I talked a while back, one of his boats was involved in an accident. Actually, what they ended up doing is they settled with the lady that owned the other boat that was involved, and then she paid me. It was just the hassle that I would go through to try to create that invoice and bill it to Grand Traverse County was just not worth the, what was it, Tom, $225 total we dealt with something like that, to repair a pontoon boat that was hit by a marine vessel on Long Lake, you know. But it's just, you know, it's a little pet peeve for me, because, you know, I try to provide quality service at a reasonable price, and I do expect to get paid.
Dan?
I don't think there's anyone, well, I'm not going to say it like that. I have always admired what you do for the county, and have never felt like you shouldn't be doing it. But I wonder about other contractors out there thinking, geez, oh Pete, why does he get first crack at this? How do we manage that?
I don't get first track at anything, I can guarantee that.
Well, I'm not trying to be contrary, but you just said that they call you up and boom, it's got to be done. I agree, and you always do it great, and you always do it at a great price. How do we handle other professionals in your profession that say, I want to have a crack at getting a call to do that, to be the guy that does it right now?
Well, I'll give you both sides of it, you know, not that I'm trying to create an argument here. The playground equipment at Twin Lakes was, there was a piece of playground equipment that had broken loose from its base. Maintenance staff went out there, they tore up their rubber material around the base, and it was broken loose at the base plate. I sent 2 guys down, they made the repair, the playground was able to be repaired and fixed within a matter of a few hours. Okay? On the other hand, about year and a half, 2 years ago, the diving board was broken loose at the swimming pool. 5 different people came in and tried to tell them how to fix it. None of them were able to repair that. So it was just prior to Danny Brown leaving, he contacted me, I went in, we established a plan of how it could be fixed. We decided at 1 o'clock the next day was the time to be able to do that. We went in, we fixed it, we were done, we were out of there, the bill was $75, and everybody was happy, and they held the swim meet that night. But, you know, it works on both sides, Dan. It does. And, you know, I'm not asking to, you know, if there's a project that's going to go out for bids, I absolutely plan on bidding it through the whole process. But some of these emergency repairs that we make are frustrating. I replaced we repaired the steps at the law enforcement center last fall. The sheriff will remember. You know, another contractor was supposed to have gotten the job and gotten it done. We went through the bidding process. Well, after he'd been authorized to do the work, somebody determined that I was the lower bidder. So then they contacted me to do the work. This other contractor, local contractor, had already purchased the material to do the job. You know, so that made hard feelings between he and I, and we've had a long relationship. I didn't want that. So I told him, I said, look, if you want to do the work, he says, no, he says, I wouldn't do it now for anybody, no matter what it paid. So, you know, this controversy back and forth of whether we should be able to do the work, we shouldn't be able to do the work, has caused a lot of issues throughout our community, and not just on county job sites.
Well, now, I'm a surgeon, and I could do the same thing with county employees. I could say, I'll just see you whenever you want, you can call me. And, I mean, what's the difference between your business and mine?
I guess we're talking about a different kind of the services that I provide to county facilities, is what I'm saying. I'm not providing services to county employees. I'm providing a service to a county facility. And I don't know what the right answer is, Chris.
I don't either. But
It's just always been. It's just a pain for me. You know, it's not a pain, because the long and the short of it is the $100. Greg offered to give me the $100 out of his pocket 2 or 3 nights after meetings because, you know, he thought it was ridiculous that I wasn't being paid because there was a commissioner missing at a couple different meetings and we weren't getting paid. But the fact is, there are times that I provide services to this community and to the county and county facilities that we do not have the ability by which to go through a full bidding process. Because even if we go through the bidding process, I have to notify this board 10 days, according to the regulations, I have to notify this board 10 days prior to submitting the bid. I don't even have 10 days on some of the stuff when I get notification that they're getting bids. They're soliciting bids. I have to give you 10 days notice before I can even bid the work under the current rules.
I wanted to be on record that I really admire what you do, and I agree with you, but...
I don't know how we fix it.
But there's people out there that are in your business that could say to the Record Eagle or anybody, it's not fair. And so I wonder about that.
Okay, I think at this point, we'll have Mr. Forsyth look into whether or not we need a supermajority. Tom?
I'm not on that subject, but I'd like to talk about the board rules before we go on to the next thing. So.
Okay, so you have Mr. Forsyth's going to look
Sure.
into that for us. Okay, thank you. Okay, do you have something on the board?
Yeah, well, when you talk about special meetings, I'm not sure that a special meeting is a study session, because a study session really has its own designation, okay? And there would be a couple of instances that I'm not sure whether it should be held at a regular board meeting or a study session. And two things that I think are pretty big topics, just because they're big topics, might need a study session because they would take up too much regular meeting time. One example would be, I would like to know what happened in the HR department, the comings and goings for the last 2 years.
Okay.
Over the last board's term. It doesn't really have anything to do with the board. And my biggest concern is I don't really want to refer to everyone by name publicly, but I do really have a great curiosity as to how we could end up on either December 22nd or 23rd with no regular employees in the HR department.
Okay,
That, to me, is remarkable.
so we can
And then,
possibly schedule that into an
Yeah.
agenda or a study session.
right, and a study session for the pension. You know, the pension is a big topic, obviously, and it was talked much about during the campaign. I think that probably deserves a study session. And what I would really like to see is like 2 or 3 choices, not a presentation on one choice of how to fix that problem. I'd like to see 2 or 3 choices on how to fix the problem.
Okay.
And because that might take up a lot of time, that's probably not appropriate for just discussion during a regular meeting. And I'm not talking about setting lots and lots of study session meetings, because in the last 6 months, there maybe only been 2. So there's not a history of a lot of study sessions, but if you have any comment at all, or anybody else does, about what kinds of things you'd like to see in a study session, it's just the HR department and the pension that I'm mostly concerned about right now. So what would be another example?
Okay, I think Jen might have a comment.
Just 2 things on
Yes.
the HR update, just for clarification. We did distribute out a memo from our HR consultant, which provided that history on that. And then the second thing is on the pension. Again, when we get to that strategic planning process,
Yes.
we can understand what those issues are and develop a plan to be able to address that and provide you with the information that you're looking for. So we are working to provide you as quickly as possible with that information.
Okay, I
I think
understand.
our strategic planning session will shed a lot of light on what all of us want to be discussed and talked about going forward. I think that's when a lot of that will come around, and it will be figured out exactly at what times that it will be the most fruitful to discuss these things. Yes. And we have that on our agenda for a little bit later in here. Yeah.
The strategic planning session process failed us a little over the last 2 years, I believe. We
would like to
we
pick it
did
back up
not
again.
We did not hold the strategic planning session early in the term. We were involved in a lot of other things, and we actually didn't hold the strategic planning session until August of 2015, I believe. You know, and by that time, we were way down the path.
Yeah.
And then we held the strategic planning session, a very good session. We identified a mission statement, we identified some goals, but we never developed a work plan or any position by which to report on that work plan and what we have accomplished toward those goals. So I think that's the key pieces that have to come out of the strategic planning
And we'll
session.
discuss that when we get to that further
Right.
on down, because we did add it to the agenda. So, Mr. Forsyth, do we just adopt the board rules as amended so far, and then we can amend them again? Or how do we do this? Indulge me. How do we do this?
At this point, why don't you direct administration with civil counsel to prepare amendments to the board rules as discussed at the organizational meeting.
Okay, and they'll bring them back in 2 weeks.
We'll bring them back in 2 weeks.
And we can pass the official board rules at that time by nods of heads. Everybody's good with that? Okay, so directed. All right, so let's move on. We have the adoption of the annual resolution.
So move.
It's on page 21.
Good catch. No!
We lost.
Almost.
So close.
Yeah, well.
Do you need
it's
it?
just- No, it's just an agenda.
Okay.
It'll be
Sarah's
fine.
coming to get it. Oh, Tom.
Oh.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay.
Okay. Wait
It's
till we
been bounced
compose ourselves
before.
here.
What page are we on?
Page 21.
Page 21.
Page 21, we
thank you.
have the resolution permitting the treasurer to waive administration fee and interest charge on delinquent taxes for senior citizens and others specified by law.
So move.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Gorfulet, supported by Commissioner Klaus. Any discussion? No? Do we need a roll call on this one or no?
I don't believe we do.
No.
Okay, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Next thing on our agenda is the Audit Committee, which I believe we've already discussed that. And we have directed our Director of Finance to help us revamp that whole process. Is everybody good with that? Okay. We will move on to approval of schedules. Monthly meeting dates and times, and commissioner appointments and assignments for 2017. Can we do these both at the same time? Is that a problem? We can, okay. So we have a number of, Cheryl.
So I would move that the dates for the meetings be approved as presented and the times be changed from 6 PM to 5:30 PM.
Okay, so that is for our regular Wednesday meetings.
Correct.
Okay. Do we have a second on that?
Support.
Will that include the equalization
No.
meeting of April 11th?
No, we'll set, I think we'll
That's at
set
2
that later.
o'clock.
I know.
No.
Why
That's not
can't
a
it be
regular
held at
meeting.
5:30?
Oh, it would work for me. I mean, 2 o'clock is a tough time.
I'm just saying, if we're going to hold all of our meetings at 5:30, why do we hold the equalization meeting at 2 o'clock?
I would, my motion would be to amend all of the meeting dates to be at 5:30, including the equalization meeting.
Okay. And are you okay
And the
with
dates
Support.
presented.
Yep.
Support, okay. Moved by Commissioner Gorfulet, supported by Commissioner Klaus. Discussion.
Madam Chairman, I would only ask the civil council verify that equalization meeting isn't statutory. I know the date is statutory, that it has to be the first Tuesday after the second Monday, but I don't know if there's a time constraint on that.
I think he determined it that the time and day didn't matter. Is that correct?
Right, it's the date that's critical.
Okay.
So all of the meetings will be at 5:30.
Okay, so, and yes, Bob.
Are we going to amend the section 2.7, then bring that back a half hour?
10:30 number?
So that we don't start any more discussion at 10? I mean, I'd like to see us, I guess, do that
At
too in your amendments.
Yeah, we could do that, sure.
Would you like to amend your motion to
Well, I
reflect
think he can
that?
handle that with just what,
Put that in the board rules to change that since we're changing the meeting time.
Not in the last few
Okay.
years.
Any further discussion on changing the meeting to 5:30? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. We will meet at 5:30 from now on. Okay, we have commissioner appointments and assignments for 2017. I did, in case this was my decision, go through the appointments and try to figure out who would best be suited for the items on the pages up. We didn't have, oh, it's on the back page. I wrote them out. They're not in this order, but I can just let everybody know as we go along. that, do we have to have one motion at the end to accept them all, or? Yes, okay.
Yes.
So, I have, and there, as I said, I apologize, not in this order, but I can do it this way. For the Airport Commission, Commissioner Johnson, so we'll leave that there. Yes, sir, Tom?
There might actually be 2 seats on that.
Are there two, there's just one for a
I
commissioner?
think there's only one commissioner.
Okay. I'll just say, we need to double check it because I spoke to them today.
You did, okay. So I can make a note that
Could have just
we-
been an oversight in the past.
I can make a note that we
Yeah.
check with
I think
Chris
there's
Kramer, our
only one
assistant.
Grand Traverse County Commissioner on that.
Okay.
Okay, we'll double check it for you, though.
So you're appointing Bob Johnson to that?
Yes.
Okay.
For the Beta Board, I think Commissioner Lathrop has done an excellent job so far, so we'll
Thank you.
let that ride. For the Board of Public Works, I believe we have Commissioner Klaus has been on that?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go with that. Brownfield. Commissioner Gorfulet has expressed tremendous interest in that. So I would be inclined to appoint her to that board. Building Code Board of Appeals, Commissioner Klaus?
I've been on that.
You've been on that? Okay. Make sure I get all these out of here. I didn't have that on my list. Okay. Community Corrections, Commissioner Wheelock is still good with that? Okay. I'm currently assigned to Department of Health and Human Services, and I'm going to keep that. I really enjoy that board.
Did you, well, Commission on Aging, you're not going to do that one? That's,
I think Commission on Aging, we no longer have a commissioner
Okay,
sitting
all
on
right,
that
cool,
board
I
that's
get it,
going
yeah.
through some changes, and so, right,
okay, thank you.
yep. Economic Development Corporation. We currently have 2 commissioners assigned to that. Commissioner Wheelock has been for the past year.
No, I was appointed in November.
Yeah. Are you very adamant about remaining on
Yeah,
that, or?
I really think I would like to stay there.
You would, okay. Okay, so let's do Commissioner Wheelock and Commissioner Gorfulet for that one. She had expressed interest in that as well. For emergency management and local planning team on Grand Traverse Central Dispatch, I had thought they all ought to be the same person. And since it is the chair that would sign any sort of management or emergency management order, declaring an emergency, anything of that sort, I would like to serve on those.
What 3 are those again?
The emergency management, local planning team, and central dispatch.
Local planning.
Here's local planning.
Local planning or county planning?
Local planning team. County planning is different. That's the County Planning Commission.
I don't see local.
I don't see
Yeah,
local
it didn't make the
planning.
list here.
LPT, on the back, it's LPT, local planning team.
Yeah, it's not on this one, but,
LC,
Oh,
Is it on the one that's part of your packet?
yeah, it's not on this one.
Oh, because I'm looking at the ones on the back of the packet,
Gotcha.
going down the list that way.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So we're looking at LEPC, emergency management, and local planning team, and central dispatch. Farmland preservation, Commissioner Lathrop expressed interest in remaining on that. Land bank, Commissioner Wheelock, are you still good with that?
I'm fine with that.
Okay. Networks Northwest, Commissioner Mayer,
Okay.
would you be okay to serve on that board, or on that
Yes.
committee? Okay, good. Northern Nexus, Bob, is that you? That is Commissioner Johnson. You okay with staying with that?
Yeah, they,
It's, yeah, some of these are every month, some of these are a couple times a month, some of them are quarterly or as needed, so try to be fair about it. Northern Lakes Community Mental Health, I would like to keep that. There's a huge learning curve with that I think I've accomplished, so I would like to keep that one. Chuck Welch can remain on the Substance Use Disorder Policy Board. Parks and Rec. Commissioner Follett, would you like to be on Parks and Rec?
Okay.
If not, I wouldn't mind being on there. I have some things I would like to tackle on it, so trying to get some money.
I think it might be a good one for me to start with, so I'd be happy to take it for this first year. Is there a rule that the second year of your term that these
No.
can't change?
If you find that it's not suited to you or that you'd rather not, we can certainly change that, I believe. Yes. Planning Commission for Commissioner Klaus?
Sure.
Good, okay. TTCI, which is formerly the TC Talis, the Transportation Committee. I am wondering if Commissioner Mayer would like to serve on that.
I'm looking at the other sheet here, but what day and time is that?
TTCI meets, I have it over here, meets 4 times. Once in January, March, May, July, and
Is it
September.
a certain week of the month or day of the week?
It's, I have it here, it's the January, it's Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesdays?
It's Wednesdays at 10 in the morning. It's January 17th, March 21st, May 16th, July 18th, and September 19th.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll do that. Veterans Affairs. Obviously, Bob Johnson would be, Commissioner Johnson would be awesome at that still. Okay? And Area Agency on Aging, Corey Hansen contacted me and wondered if we're still going to have a representative on there, and I told him that that would be completely fine for him to remain. He does a great job there, being the director of the pavilions. Only other ones, we have audit we're not going to do. The capital improvement planning, Mr. Wheelock, if we do any of that, would still be on that board, okay?
County planning, that's not,
County, for some reason, there was 2 of them on here.
yeah. This is the Planning Commission and County
Planning
Planning.
Commission and County Planning, and they
I
meet
think
at the
it's a
same
duplicate.
time, so I assumed that they were the same thing, and it
It's
was
a duplicate then,
unnecessary,
okay.
unnecessary duplication on the list. The Pension Board, I believe, is by default the chair? Yes? The agenda is the chair, and we'll come out with a schedule for rotating commissioners for that one.
did we appoint someone to the Planning Commission?
Ron Klaus.
Oh, Ron
Mr.
is.
Klaus.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's in here in 3 different ways.
There are 2 more that I wanted to add that haven't had a representative. The Road Commission, not to be on the board, obviously on the Road Commission, but I was wondering how commissioners felt about having someone go there, listen, report back, represent the board at all. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't see a need for it, but.
You don't,
I
okay.
mean, I'm just
We
one
did it
person.
for a long time.
Did.
I don't know that, the one thing with the Road Commission is they're very good about coming here and giving
They
us
are.
a monthly report.
They are.
They give us a very good detailed report, and when they are here, there's usually at least one of their board members plus the manager here.
Okay.
I think we get the feedback that we need from the Road Commission without one of us trying to get there.
Okay.
I mean, they're open meetings, so.
Yeah,
They are,
If the
we
commissioner
know
always
it.
wants to go, they can
You know,
go.
I did it for a couple of years, they meet 11 o'clock in the morning or something like that.
They're at
Now it's
7 o'clock at
at
night.
Oh, they've changed their time.
Road Commission is,
It's
it's
televised.
the third Thursday at 7 o'clock.
It's televised.
Oh, that's right. But, the Road Commission is very good about getting here and giving us reports and being available to answer questions. So I don't know that it necessarily a commissioner needs to be there. Everyone's always welcome to go because it's a public meeting, so.
Okay. I had one other to add. I had attended a meeting of the Grand Traverse Collaborative. Can't talk anymore. It's a collection of different agencies that provide services to a lot of our members, and Wendy Trout would like to come and make a comment. You already go as our representative. Okay. Okay. Then I guess as long as we have a representative going. I didn't happen to see you at that one. Okay. Okay. As long as we have a representative from the county that's attending, I think that's important. Okay. All right, we'll go with that. Anything else?
Madam
to
Chairman,
vote on that?
Madam Chairman, I would move to approve the 2017 Board of Commissioner assignments, committee assignments as outlined by the Board Chairman.
Support?
Okay, so moved by Commissioner Wheelock, supported by Commissioner Johnson. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. We have no old business. Under new business, we wanted to talk about some strategic planning. Who would like to start?
I just think we should do it as soon as possible,
Okay,
and that's it. So I don't know if we want to have staff give us a doodle poll or have staff give us some ideas. but
Where do we do
ASAP.
it? Where do we do it?
Well, in the
Last one,
past,
we
we've
did
hired
it at Twin
Barbara.
we've hired a facilitator. I forget her last name. She's very good.
She's very good.
And we've had it at Twin Lakes for a day.
in Twin Lakes, and does it have to be, it's an open meeting, isn't it? You have to,
It is, you have to make it an open meeting because we're all
televised,
there.
or at least whatever, and,
It doesn't have to be televised, but it
Doesn't?
has to be advertised as open, an open meeting that the
Yeah.
public could attend to listen if they wanted
Yeah.
to.
and then we had, it was pretty much an all-day affair. And we might even ask the staff to schedule not just one, but a couple, so that we do one, and we have one of the books within a month, or whatever is suggested, so we don't not have a second meeting like we did last year, the last 2 years.
And we've done this a couple different ways. We've done them at various locations throughout the community. I can remember doing them at the Knife and Fork Club off of 4 Mile Road back a number of years ago. We've done them at the Haggerty Center. We've done a number of them at Twin Lakes. We hired Barbara Miller?
Ellis.
Barbara
Ellis.
I can't remember.
Barbara
any-
Ellis?
Ellis,
Is that it?
that's it.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing that we've done in the past is we've asked MSU Extension to facilitate the meetings. They have planning staff that helped us with it. Jim Wiesing, that used to be the executive director here for MSU Extension. That was his forte, was governmental planning. So Jim did a number of them for us. There's other alternatives to us other than we've done it. I guess what I'd like to see is have staff come up with some sort of a proposal of, how we're going to go about this. But I think it's absolutely critical that we look at our strategic plan that we have in place, have open discussions with the commissioners about, is this still our mission? Are these still our goals and our objectives? And make sure that we are establishing priorities by how we wish to move forward with those goals.
So could we get that before the next meeting or at the next meeting? Copy of our current
I think it
strategic-
needs to be sooner rather than later. What do you think, Jen?
Yeah, we can absolutely get you the information that we have. We don't have a formally adopted strategic plan right now from the board that's currently active, so we'll get you some of the background information that was developed during the last discussion.
We have some notes on that were
We
prepared.
have the notebook that we did in August of 2015. We can provide
That's
that
what I want.
information to you. It's, got dropped off the side of the cliff. I
Well,
don't know what else to say
that should
about
be the
it.
starting
It's a place to start. It definitely is a place to
It
start.
was a good session.
If we could get some notes together about what we talked about, because I know that notes were taken.
Can I
So that-
suggest that we get
Yes.
dates on the books sooner rather than later? I know in February, I'm going on vacation. I assume some
Well,
of
we
the
got to
others.
find out when people are available, though, that are
Right.
going to present
Right,
it
that's
to
what I'm
them. We
saying.
can't do anything today, tonight
Right.
with this, so.
I
Right.
think we're pretty clear with sooner rather than later.
We need dates, though.
Yes, absolutely.
Potential dates.
if you like, Madam Chair, staff would be happy to propose a process, some options, and discuss with you.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Anything else on the strategic planning? Okay, at this point, we are down to second public comment. Any members of the audience out here like to make public comment at this time? And I'll run at once. You can look up. If I make eye contact, it doesn't mean you have to come up.
Except for the kids.
Congratulations, Mr. Largent, and welcome to the team.
Yes, thank you. This is our Drain Commissioner, Mr. Largent. We have any notices or final comments by anyone? Okay, then we
Madam Chairman,
stand
we adjourn.
adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.